Greetings! I apologize for being so sudden, but you know the phrase, the word on the wind is? That's me. I'm where all the rumors come from. And rumor has it we're talking about Mother 3 tonight.
That's right. So it's come to this. How long have you been waiting to do that, Word?
Over a year.
So it's come to this. Yeah, so for episode 147, we're going to be talking about Mother 3, which means we've done 2 of the 3 Earthbound games. We've ranked them, and we also did for Game Club 1990X, we did the original Earthbound, or the original Mother.
Yep.
Famicom. So, I mean, we've got our bases covered. This game was nominated by @SB057 on Twitter. Maybe that's like leet speak. Maybe it's like supposed.
No, it's just a bunch of SBs.
It was published by Nintendo and developed by Brownie Brown and HAL Laboratory. So Brownie Brown, as we may remember from HG 101 lore, is the kid that even Charlie Brown picks on. So Charlie Brown has a rough day.
I'm impressed you remembered that.
Yeah. He goes and is like, Brownie Brown, you suck. I know.
Apparently this is just the evening where all the stuff that we've wanted for years comes to fruition.
Oh, I've already made this joke. It's old news. I'm just making it again because I like it. So this game was released for the Game Boy Advance on April 20th, 2006 in Japan and nowhere else ever.
Good Lord. It was that late?
Oh, yeah.
Boy, howdy, this was... where to even begin?
How about with the N64 and the N64 DD? Because that's...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, this was originally planned for the 64 disc drive and was going to be a 3D game. And then it wasn't.
Are we sure it was going to be a 3D game, or was it going to be like one of those crappy-looking digitized...
Okay. There was actual gameplay footage put at... I forget what show it was, but at one of those, like...
Probably Space World, if I had to
That's
guess.
the name of it. Thank you.
Maybe, yeah. But, yeah, they did actually have gameplay visions, and it did not look like, anything you'd associate with Mother. Unless you were in a battle, in which case it had, like, the funky backdrops, and that's about it.
Yeah, so... So let's back up a little bit, because I mentioned Earthbound, but just, because not everybody is totally... hip to this. So the Earthbound
Let's pretend, for example, that just for the sake of a hypothetical here, that I don't know anything about Earthbound.
Yeah, okay, but first we got to make sure, because I know that some people don't know anything about all of us. So can everybody introduce themselves? Who's with me to talk about Mother 3? I almost forgot. Besides Word on the Wind.
I would be Cassidy. I am the curator of the Bad Game Hall of Fame, and I am an Earthbound expert, but for the sake of example here, I'm going to pretend that I don't know anything about Mother 3. So.
Okay.
And I'm the great Klaid, and I just really like these games. They're kind of cool.
They are kind of
cool. You guys ever heard of them?
Because not everybody might immediately make the connection. Mother is the Japanese name for the Earthbound series in Japan. It's
and the
Earthbound being Mother 2.
Earthbound being Mother 2. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Is I kept thinking they should come up with, like, the people who did the fan translation of Mother 3. I think should just call it like Earthbound Returns or something like that, just to make it easier.
I mean, that would be missing the whole point of the plot.
Is there any connective thread between this game and the previous installments?
Yes.
We'll get to that.
Absolutely, yes.
I don't know how much we want to spoil this.
Yeah,
this
it's a big spoiler.
I was kind of dreading
Don't spoil anything that Smash Brawl didn't spoil.
Okay. So with so it's a sequel to the first 2 Earthbound games, which are as it's now known, Earthbound Beginnings for the Famicom, and Earthbound, no space between the words, I guess, for the Super Nintendo. And as we mentioned earlier, it was going to be developed it was being developed for the 64 disc drive that
didn't see the light of day.
Well, the 64... the game didn't. The 64 disc drive did, just barely.
Yeah. It got to peek its head out and got stomped down quickly.
Hey, everybody, is my too low? Okay, I'll just go. Sorry.
GameCube.
Oh.
Definitive version of that F-Zero game for the N64, though. Got the level editor and all that jazz, so...
Yes, thank you, Nintendo.
Yeah, so they... and it's So we're probably never going to get it. I mean, never say never, but I'm saying never
Oh boy, Howdy.
I just don't think this one's going to happen.
There are so many things in this game that make it all kinds of special and just about guaranteed that we will never get an official release.
Well, we always say that about Earthbound for re-release too, and that actually got
I'm just
going to
say one word.
I think Earthbound, the original. Okay, so Earthbound for re-release, I think that people had theories, right? That it uses like samples from the Beatles, which it does, which is a very bad idea. But it was re-released,
and almost unscathed.
Yeah, pretty much. Like just a few things might have been changed.
It changed the flashing for epileptic purposes, and it got rid of the red cross because of the Geneva Convention.
Yes.
Just like Wolfenstein 3D had to do, as a matter of fact. Or is it Doom? One of the two. I think it's Doom. Oh, yeah, well, that could work too. Yeah, it could also be both.
Yeah.
But as for why Mother 3 isn't going to see, release outside of Japan, there's a lot of reasons, but I think the very, very big one is summed up by the word Magypsy.
Yes.
That's
although
right.
I don't think that would be impossible to change just a little bit. To make it work. But we'll get to that later. We have to talk about that later.
Oh boy, I don't think there's anything you can change about that without ruining everything about it.
Perhaps we'll have to get to there. So just like the SNES Earthbound, this game ran into some serious problems during development. I don't think that much has been said about what exactly those problems were.
My understanding from what I've seen regarding how Iwata ended up saving Earthbound was there wasn't really any kind of streamlined process or like custom tools made for the production of Earthbound. And he came in and just said, okay, let's just start over. I will set us up with tools and we can like crack this out in 6 months.
Did he do this game too?
No.
I thought that was Pokemon that he did all that for.
No, he did it for Earthbound.
What he did with Pokemon was he compressed the data so much that they were able to fit the entire original game in there as well as the new game.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So with
which is why you go back to Kanto.
Yeah, that's Satoru Iwata is like one of the most amazing people in the Japanese game industry, just for like both talent, like just like being in the right place, the right time kind of thing. And also just, business acumen, which I don't think anybody really anticipated.
I would also say that he had a very
Nintendo.
deep understanding of production pipelines, the thing that sort of gets overlooked, that he understood how to streamline development to a point where like people could come in on a project and like understand like where their place in the project is. If you look at his organizational roles, he's very important in that sense.
I imagine him sitting down and just be like, I don't know exactly what's going on here, but I made balloon fights, so I'm pretty sure I can figure this out.
I made
balloon fight.
I think my favorite Iwata story is there's this one like Kirby paraphernalia where Miyamoto, Iwata, and what's the Smash guy's name again?
Sakurai?
Sakurai, yes. All three of them were to say something about making Kirby and do a drawing of Kirby, and of course the other two are artists. They draw great Kirbys and they put the text all below. Iwata draws a very bad Kirby, but he puts all the text like up in the top right corner, like a programmer being very space efficient, and there's tons of blank space left over.
That's so. Anyway, he had nothing to do with this game, as far as I know.
He wasn't like super directly involved, but he's Satoru Iwata. He deserves all the credit.
Let's talk about Shigeru Miyamoto. He didn't have a role in this game.
Okay, so
let's
all right.
break Iwata.
Okay, wait. All right. I'm trying to order Muppet here. Okay, the order Muppet is speaking. So, and it's bad when I'm the order Muppet.
Slinky sounds.
What you need to do is like we need to talk about. Okay, so if you want to know about the history of the Earthbound series and what makes it kind of special, go listen to episode whatever. Which one was it? We ranked Earthbound. It's very high up on the list. We think very highly of it. It is episode 9. So you can go listen to episode 9 and you'll hear all about everything you want to know about but basically, long story short is it's like the story is done by not like a guy who does games. It's done by
Fisherman.
A fisherman, yes. Old Long John
Itoi.
Silver sat down.
Shigesaki Itoi.
Shigesaki Itoi, who is best known as the voice from the dad in Totoro. No. He is
Shigesaki Itoi's Black Bass Fishing.
Yeah, he's an ad copywriter superstar, whatever that could possibly be. We talk about it in episode 9, so check it out. But long story short, this guy is like a really just a fascinating, interesting guy. He's got a way with words. He's got a very whimsical, quirky sense of humor. And on top of that, Earthbound, beginning with the Super Nintendo, probably actually no. I mean, I think even the until recently unreleased NES Earthbound probably had some of the weirdness that we know.
Yes.
Definitely.
So
let's talk about Magic Hand.
Yeah. So it's just known for this really, like, I hate saying the word offbeat because that's how my mom would describe it. As like, oh, it's a little offbeat, just a little bit kooky, a little bit crazy.
I think the best way to describe it was actually the tagline for Mother 3. Funny, weird, and heart-wrenching.
Yeah. So it's hard to explain. You got to listen to episode 9 of this show, and you'll hear all about Earthbound, which I think is still probably the best example of the series. Like, it's still, I think, the peak of the series. Not that Mother 3 is a disappointment. It's more like there's some heavy stuff going on in this game. But anyway, so right, like we said, they started developing it for the 64 disk drive. Had to stop.
City of Forside.
Much later, they pretty much went back and just remade the same game on the Game Boy Advance, which means you can't use any of the assets. You might be able to use some of the music, the sounds, but I don't know.
Some of the music got, like refurbished. Like there's a notable characters theme, and they actually had that playing over the gameplay trailer that they showed off for the disc drive version. And that still exists in the game, but it has been altered to, fit the GBA sound chip.
Is that not in Earthbound? His theme? The I can't think how it goes, but
absolutely not. He doesn't even have one in
this. I mean,
oh my god, I never realized that.
Much more so. So, which we also haven't mentioned yet, but the Earthbound Mother series is a series of JRPGs. So, we also got to talk. We also neglected to mention the genre. It's
it's Earthbound.
Especially
there's a lot to talk about with this game and the series in general.
Especially the Famicom, the NES version, Earthbound Beginnings, as it's now known.
You just refuse to call it Mother 1, don't you?
Well, nobody called it Mother 1. It would just be called Mother 1.
I've only ever played the original NES Earthbound. So.
That's the first one I played, by the way. Like, I hadn't played the SNES one. I played the original. So I have, like, an oddly high opinion of the original Earthbound or Famicom.
Yeah. I like old RPGs. That's a rough one.
Yeah, it is, but I like it. So that one was very much like kind of playing on some tropes from like Dragon Quest which was still at that time a very new phenomenon in Japan. And, as the series goes on, it's not really doing that. Like by 2010, this is a very traditional JRPG in a lot of ways in terms of just how the game works. It's got super crazy limited inventories and all that. I mean, it's got a lot of that stuff. So, but it keeps the rolling HP counter from the SNES game, which is, listen to episode 9, you'll hear all about it. But, if you're in a hurry, it's basically it's just like when you get hit by an enemy, it doesn't immediately suck away it hit you for 64 damage. You're screwed. It's not like it immediately subtracts 64 from your hit points. What it does is it starts like a counter,
just think of like the odometer in your car.
Yeah, it just starts going down. So if you
crash into a wall, your odometer starts really going down.
Yeah, if you or it could be like Ferris Bueller where they try to make it go backwards by
you hit the tree and the tree explodes, and then it goes down.
So I mean that's one thing, and this game also adds another pretty clever, but I think kind of poorly implemented mechanic.
So I know that you're going in to talk about the musical battle system.
Yeah, that's what the sentence would. If I had continued the sentence, it would have said that. But by all means, word, please.
Yeah, I'm the one who really wanted to be here, so I'm going to talk about this damn game. But yeah, so Mother 3 implements what they call the musical battle system, wherein when you tell a character to do a basic attack, there is a rhythm with every single battle song in the game, of which there's like 50. And if you match pressing the A button with that rhythm, you'll do additional hits that do, scalingly lower damage up to 16 hits. And these are in all kinds of different rhythms. There's I'm not a musical person, but I know that one song is 11/19ths or something like that. It's really funky scale.
Yeah,
I was going to ask if there were weird time signatures or anything.
Yes.
At this
Oh,
coordinate.
God.
it's like a regular Dave Brubeck album here. So
And some songs are variations of earlier songs, but with points to trip you up.
yes, exactly. It's crazy. Like there are songs that change their tempo in the middle of the song, correct? So
And I think a thing that a lot of people don't quite realize is, since we're mostly playing it through emulation, a lot of people are going, oh, this isn't matching up exactly with the music. It's adjacent, but it isn't quite working right. That's strictly an emulation issue, and it doesn't do that on hardware.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's hard to know
This
that.
is distinctive of most rhythm games. The emulation these days, especially low-level emulation where things aren't necessarily synced properly or or whatever other cases have you.
It is pretty rough though. Like I forgot about that. I do have a GBA flash cartridge, which is purely for scientific purposes and not for piracy. Because I definitely went out and bought a used copy of Mother 3 just because Nintendo still gets no money, but somehow that's legitimate. No, I did not. I did not do that. I proudly pirated it. Yeah. So, I should check that out because so maybe it's not so poorly implemented then. I won't say that. I found as a musical person who did play and perform music and stuff like that, and I was not excellent at keeping time, but I could do it. I was very frustrated this time playing. I'm I don't remember this being so hard.
Even on hardware, I have a really hard time with it, and I'm not terrible at rhythms.
Well, the good thing is that it's a 100% optional thing. The game is balanced so that even if you're not using it at all, you can still do just fine.
Yeah, but
Which is smart.
That's really frustrating because you're I want to do this thing, and then it never works, and it just a little niggle in your head, and you really hate it.
Yeah, which is smart though that they made sure that it wasn't mandatory, because a lot of people will be playing this on the train with no headphones back in those days. People probably were in 2010 were dusting off their GBA. It's oh my, I don't even know where the headphone port is. It's been so long. And it's but that's a very cool idea. So I won't criticize it too much because I don't know how much is just my frustration now, but I do recall it being difficult even when I was playing it on my regular Game Boy Advance.
There is a little thing. If you put guys to sleep, you can hear it really amplifies the rhythm, and then it works a lot better because
you quote hear their heartbeat, which is to the rhythm of the song.
Yeah, but it almost it switches the tracks. It puts the rhythm up front, and it kind of makes it sound like you're listening to the rest of the music behind a door. And in that case, the timing is pretty good. But like I said, when you're normally playing the game, sometimes trying to guess the rhythm feels janky.
Even with headphones on, I had a hard time.
Yeah,
I remember.
I know the rhythm of this, and then I put him to sleep. I'm that's
because it's not it's a strictly keeping the time. It's it's got to be in rhythm with the song, because when you attack and when the enemies attack, each character has their own instrument. Mm-hmm. That adds a jazz solo to the song as it's playing. This is the kind of game we're talking about here. It is.
Oh my God.
Absolutely brilliant and weird, and it's the kind of thing that only somebody who doesn't normally make games or doesn't normally get to express their opinions on the dev team, maybe one of those. It's
like an outsider art piece.
It is. It's very strange, and there's a lot of stuff in the game that is obviously weird and just kind of goes on without much comment. My favorite one is something you notice very early in the game, which is that you're in the Old West or something that has dinosaurs. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it also takes place after the NES or SNES Earthbound.
Spoilers.
You figure out how. That's the spoiler. But saying a sequel takes place after the game that came before it is not really a spoiler, man.
I know. I just like doing that. It makes people intrigued to play the game because then you're ooh, what does that mean? Then you have to play through both games, and you should really just do that. Mm-hmm. You're welcome, listeners.
But tell me more about the Old West, because I'm a cowpoke. I'm an active cowpoke there. So
okay.
So I was about to start mentioning some of the characters, given that Xerxes mentioned how each character has their own instrument.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I figure the best way to start that is by just kind of giving an opening synopsis of the game. And this is a game that has a lot of like narrative twists and turns, and like the way the situation operates at one point is absolutely not how it operates at another point. And I'm not going to go too into it because this is very much an emotional game about, actually having the experience. So the way things open up is you have this rancher cowboy guy named Flint. And as long as Flint is your main character, he doesn't talk. When other people are main characters, he can talk. That's the rule. Main characters
Oh, I can do that.
Fleetwood?
Yeah, which is, it's like a Dragon Quest thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
basically, yeah.
Because Lucas will talk too.
We're getting there. And yes, he lives with his wife, Hinata, and his twin sons, Lucas and Claus, and their dog, Boney. And he is a sheep rancher. And they live in a village of very, simple means and production called Tasmilly, on the Islands of Nowhere, the Nowhere Islands, which, incidentally, I have read is basically kind of a joke at saying utopia, because utopia apparently means, non-existent place, or something like that.
yeah.
But,
Utopia.
It does.
Yes, it does. It's in Latin. I thought you were talking about Japanese. I'm like,
Oh,
no.
No,
But,
I never thought about that. That's neat.
Hinata and the children have gone off to visit her father, Alec, who lives up in the mountains, and he just kind of does his own thing. The evening comes, and it kind of is a little strange that they were predicted to come home that evening, and they don't. And then the forest that you have to pass through to get there is on fire.
yeah. So, like the other two Earthbound games, it starts with what at least seems like an alien invasion. For all intents and purposes, that's what it is. Yeah. So yeah, the music is a big part of this game. Even though Hip Tanaka was not involved, it's still very, very good. So, yeah, it's like it starts out like the other games do, with like there's a weird thing that happens that disrupts people's everyday lives, and the weird thing is like a strange creature is visiting from worlds beyond somewhere. So it's I mean I don't.
So
There's some.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was going to say, so to kind of move on that, the weird thing about Mother 3, compared to the other two games, is how the game progresses. Earthbound, in particular, is a game that feels really open and then kind of closes as it goes. Mother 3 feels like a train. Choo-choo.
Yeah, M3 is definitely the most linear of the three Mother entries. Like, there's no question about that.
Yes.
And it has, it has very strong narrative reasons to do that.
Well, it's
Are we
got
talking like
reasons.
it locks you out of towns as you move out of them? Like, you can't...
Well, like, you're literally in a section for part of the game.
It's divided up into multiple chapters. And
It's almost like levels.
It has a number of chapters, and each chapter for like the first half of the game actually has like a different main character.
Right.
And then for the latter half, you have Lucas at the front, and from there you're kind of... You have like a pseudo openness, but not really.
Can you go back in between towns? It's been a little while since I've played this. Can you go back and forth between towns like you could in Earthbound?
I mean, you say towns plural.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, there's
Oh my
only
God.
Tasmilly in this game.
Oh,
One
it's been a-
exception, and that's kind of a big
That's-
deal.
Yeah, but you can't go back to Tasmilly from that point, right?
There's only a couple points where you can't actually go to Tasmilly, and if you can't go there, then you have no need to be going there.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like you can always go back to Onett in Earthbound. There's very few cases, and I think you're like not playing as Ness. I think you can almost walk back.
Yeah, I mean it's a more traditional RPG. This is
yeah.
like, in my opinion, like this is kind of where, although I don't, like I said, I'm not like, I understand the game is different. I kind of look at it as the Metroid Fusion of the series.
Yeah,
In a way,
it's an
but
excellent game.
Considering that I thoroughly hate Metroid Fusion, I'm having a hard time understanding what you're trying to say with that.
okay, so what I'm not saying that it's I actually really like Metroid Fusion,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's a if not better Metroid game than Super Metroid, that it's a more interesting Metroid game than Super Metroid. So that's
can
where
have
I'm
a
coming
fist fight
from
later.
here.
Let me ask this: is the Old West theme that you hinted at consistent throughout Mother 3? It
Well, there's
changes
nothing
up?
consistent about it from the beginning. There's like an old,
Yes.
like quasi, like I don't know what. There's
Japanese castle.
like a Japanese castle. There's
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
the
There's
setting
cyborgs.
is very mishmash, and being a sheep rancher is just kind of the Flint family thing.
It's not
Like
like it's-
everyone else has their own thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's also like it trades heavily on this idea of like it's like a frontier kind of town, like a small town.
Yeah.
It's
It's
extremely small town. Like everyone knows each other. Everyone knows, what everyone else had for dinner last night.
And-
we're talking that kind of a small town.
Do you get to
and-
know everyone in the town, like you as a
Oh,
player? Sort of
absolutely.
experience.
You will be keeping an eye out for anyone you know over the course of the game,
Including
and how
my-
they're developing in regarding to what the narrative is doing.
Including my
Yes.
favorite character, the really tall guy who rings the alarm.
Yes,
The alarm bell. There's just a really tall guy who doesn't talk, and his job is to clang the bell when something bad
It's
is
the most
happening.
earthbound thing. I love it.
Yes, it's actually, in my opinion, one of the weirdest things in any of the games, because it's just like you think that this guy is going to come in handy sometime. Like you're looking for people in the beginning of the game. It's like you've got a man who's like taller than the trees. Like just ask him, but he won't talk to you. His job is to ring the alarm bell.
Well, he can't hear you all the way down there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a whimsical, crazy game. And, what's interesting is that it's because it trades heavily on this, I think, later on in the game. Like the trappings of modernity are just not there in this game, even though it technically takes place after the first two games, which had like phones and TVs and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just, but applying any kind of logic to the series is pointless.
I wouldn't say that.
Well-
Like, it's pretty easy to summarize Mother 3's, subtext, which is the human condition.
Well, mishmash is a good way to explain the subtext of Mother 3.
It's just not important. Like the way that like what technology is available to the characters is not important. So, there's like, I don't want to go too much further into it because I think this is a game that deserves to be experienced. My main issue with it, as I was saying earlier with the Metroid Fusion thing, is that it's very much a directed experience. It's not.
The narrative steers the action, effectively. Is what you're
Yeah,
saying,
it's
whereas
not
the
like
okay,
that's
Fusion
a,
narrative guides
and that's
it
not a
along.
result. Yeah, and that's not a result of like poor game planning where they just like, oh, we got to finish this. Like they took their sweet time. It came out in 2010 on the GBA.
2006.
Oh wait, why did I say 2010?
I don't know.
You've been saying that, and I'm just
I've
gonna
been wondering where it
continue
comes from.
notice.
If I'm wrong,
Is that like where the fan translation maybe came out? Is that what we're?
Oh, that's...
I was just looking. I was looking at Nier.
Easy mistake. No, I get it. No.
Okay, so every time you heard me say 2010, I'm really talking about 2006. Okay, but still, that's pretty late in the GBA's life cycle.
Speaking of the fan translation, we once again have Klaid Mandolin, aka Tomato, to thank for the translation.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's shown up a lot lately.
It's like he does good work or something.
Thank you,
Weird.
dude.
But will
You're
I
like
ever
the
say
me-
thank you? Hell no.
You're like the Mirror World Vic Ireland. I want that quoted.
Okay.
The back of the box.
Consider it done and moving on. So yeah, like it's like it's a very directed experience, and it's not because the game was rushed or because there was some kind of problem in the conception of it. That's just what they intended it to be. So it's that allows for like kind of a very interesting experience for at least the first half of the game. The way everything unfolds is like, you never know who you're going to be controlling next. People who don't seem important at all at first become important later and stuff like that. And, but at the same time, it takes away from me some of the fun of Earthbound, which is like Earthbound games are the kind of games where you just like walk around wherever and talk to people and like check things out because you never know what kind of crazy, funny thing is going to show up.
Yeah, it's because, I mean, like, as you can even talk between, like, Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion. Most times you play Super Metroid, you're pretty much taking the same path, but you have that whole option of looking around and doing weird stuff off the beaten path. That's, like, a really good comparison now I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, remind me, maybe the game opens up more as it goes on, but I don't remember that. Whereas
It
Metroid
does open
Fusion,
up after a point where, like, okay, you have to go to these several areas here, and you can technically do them in any order.
yeah,
And
so
it's going to be harder for you if you do them in, anything but one particular order, but that particular order is the one that it's going to set you down in the first place.
yeah, so I mean, what the genius of Metroid Fusion, I think, was that it it knew what it was doing, and that it's like, oh no, we're not. We're going to act like we're kind of breaking the Metroid rules here, where you're kind of being told where to go, and somebody's talking to you, and you're supposed to listen to that thing. And then as the game goes on, like it becomes possible to break that sequence and do things on your own, and start, trespassing on places you're being told not to go.
And this comparison is really weird. It's like so accurate.
Yeah. So, and it's also like, a long awaited GBA sequel to an SNES
Right?
classic. Yeah. So,
Like when you said it, I was like, wait.
I'm holding my peace real hard over here.
okay. Yeah.
Just even if you don't like Metroid Fusion, which is weird, but
I'm just saying, no, it's a lot of people don't like Metroid Fusion, but I think they're just wrong.
well, yeah.
And they should remain silent.
But I'm really weird how much me and Xerxes are agreeing on something that doesn't rhyme with Schmeg and
Well, you're always wrong anyway, Clade, so, I think that's its own metric.
Which side should I get on here? I gotta pick my allegiances real carefully here. Gotta choose my faction.
Before we're going to have to rank it, because I do not want to spoil what happens.
Yeah.
There is a thing that does need to be discussed, and I mentioned the Magypsies earlier.
Okay. All right. I'm not qualified to do this. Somebody else, please.
This is absolutely
That's
my
all
territory.
word.
Is this about to get problematic?
Like, it's one of those things that if it were any other thing, I would be adverse to it, but because it's this and the way they go about it, I think it's actually done very well.
Please.
So,
Yeah.
the Magypsies, aside from having, like, a name that's, half a slur, but are these strange kind of ancient alien sort of wizard kind of people. And if you just look at them, you're going to come up with, a bad trans stereotype.
Okay.
But if you actually pay attention to the way they act and what they're talking about, you'll notice that it's mostly a matter of people that are not them don't understand them and don't really make an effort to understand them. And so they know what they're doing, no one else knows what they're doing, and that's not really their own fault. They're also kind of a very important fabric of, reality.
It's really hard. This is there's some cross-cultural things happening here that I think, I honestly don't know what in 2006 would have been made of this, but now it's definitely like, I don't know, maybe it would be done in Japan, but I'm not even sure about that.
So there is a point in the game where one of the Magypsies is technically in your party as like an NPC guest. And you can actually roam all through Tazmily while they're following you, and everyone has a unique dialogue response at this point in time only, where they basically give a response to, oh, there's a trans person following you. And it's very interesting in that some people that you would expect to be, very, kind and accepting have very rude things to say, and some very rude people have, very, tolerant and accepting things to say, and some people are very much, superficial, like there's like shopkeeper Thomas, he's chill because he's chill with everyone, and the shitty mayor is shitty with everyone.
That's interesting. That's like, do you feel like, I don't want to like dig too much into your personal life word, but like, do you feel like that's in any way true to life? Like people you think would be not.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And like people who you think would be like kind of okay with everything would not be. And then
yeah, that's definitely a true to life thing. Like some people that you're like, okay, they seem like they're all right. Oh, they just dropped some awful language. Well, so much for that.
Yeah,
and then there's
aren't
some
always
people,
indicative of like underlying opinions or what have you. Where you deal with people who are outwardly, like they can be like extroverted, they can be very sociable, but when you press them on an issue, it can turn sour in a matter of minutes.
Exactly. And then there's some people who are, very brusque and bristly, but like when you come down to the brass tacks of your situation, they're just like, that's your business. Who am I to judge?
That's, I mean, I was very curious about that. Yeah. I didn't,
But would you call it tasteful? Like, at the end of the day, would you call the representation tasteful in the game? Or
ultimately,
at least, like,
yes. Like, it's very clear that, they like who they are, and they are absolutely fine with, people that are not them not understanding them because, that's not their business.
They're not human, right?
No.
So it's like, to me, I thought part of I don't want to call it a joke, but part of the gimmick was that there is no gender with the Magypsies. And
Exactly. That's
it's
correct.
like, you don't like, cause they don't show like, at least I don't remember, maybe I'm misremembering this, but I don't recall. I think they're all would be like
non-binary.
They're all gender non-conforming.
Yeah. So there's only one gender, which is what they are for their species. So I think the problem, I don't want to say problem, but like I think the uncomfortable part, it seemed like it was dealing with that kind of ugly trope of the like, person who's wearing, feminine makeup, but has like, 5 o'clock
absolutely.
shadow.
As I said, if you take them on visual value alone, they look like a bad trans stereotype.
So they play a major role. This whole
Absolutely.
They do.
alien
Yeah.
race plays a
Actually,
major
I
role.
want to throw a quick question at you, Word, because of that. Do you think it's better because they are who they are? Like, say if they were on the role of like the Mr. Saturns in the first game, or the second game, would it be worse or better?
Like, I can see what the point of comparison is there, and like I would say the Magypsies are on the whole just as lovable as Mr. Saturns are.
Okay. Well, because I was thinking, because like when I first played Mother 3, I'm like, oh, okay, these guys are the Mr. Saturns of this game. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, I'm dumb.
No,
Yeah.
Mr. Saturns are in this game.
They are. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, stuff from the other games makes its way in here. It is
It's a
complete
long
series.
game sometimes.
It is
How
a long
long is
game.
it, out of curiosity? Like, what's the average?
If you know what you're doing, 40 hours pretty much.
Okay.
Oh my god, really?
It's a long.
Like, maybe you can prune it down to 30. It's pretty.
As I say,
It's-
I think my first time I did it about 30.
It can be quite challenging, especially at the beginning.
Yes.
Is there
the
any amount
middle-
of grinding or?
I have
There are like 3% drops for legendary weapons if you care, but again, entirely optional.
Yeah, I beat it without grinding.
I always get Kumatora's glove just by accident, just blind chance. It's great,
It's how there's always one of those in all
and I've
these
never
games.
gotten Lucas's legendary.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, like just to put a pin on the Magypsies thing, like I guess it's like it is a joke. It's not necessarily a joke that I would be okay.
See, that's the
making.
thing. I don't think I would qualify the Magypsies in and of themselves as a joke.
I don't think it's a mean-spirited joke. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think that it's not a joke that's at the expense of trans people.
Let me ask it in this way, because I feel like it's clunky trying to describe it, and I feel like maybe because of the core of this is their presentation narratively important. Are the people who developed and designed these characters trying to make a statement with it? Are they trying to make a point, like in terms?
If they're trying to make a statement with it, then it's that trans people are cosmic wizards and are awesome.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, I can get that with that. I can set. Yeah, it's perfect then.
Did you hear about
No
trans
problems.
people? They can do magic. Yeah, it's like
I mean, I got on this show, didn't I?
yeah. So it's like again, like it's also like an issue of you'd have to ask a Japanese trans person how they felt to really understand.
Yeah.
Whether because they may
There is a bit
have
of a
a
cultural
very
divide there.
they may have a very different take on it.
Oh yeah, I could try to say that if we put a pin in it now, like as long as it's well intentioned, as long as it's not like outwardly disrespectful, outwardly not trying to like make like a joke of it, then
Yeah.
the harm in it is going to be minimal. I would say. I'm not speaking for everybody, but
Like, at the end of the game, I'm fairly confident, your average player is going to respect the Magypsies.
okay, that's I think that's the key thing more than
Yeah. Where do we want to rank this game?
All right, go ahead.
Like,
Word.
my first thing
Start.
is above Earthbound.
Really? Okay.
I think that's the key
Shots
question.
fired.
That's how you're going to determine this: is whether it ranks above its predecessor or not.
I would say no, but please
I would
justify.
absolutely say yes. I have played Earthbound twice and don't really feel like playing it again. I have played Mother 3 twice and would play it multiple times if not for the fact that like it hits me right in the existentials and it makes me really uncomfortable in that realm. And since it actually makes me feel something, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, we can't explain why. All we can say is that very early on in the game, you realize that like the stuff that your assumptions are not necessarily going to hold true. And also that anything is possible. And that the idea, like it's a JRPG about like cyborg dinosaurs and stuff and like pig aliens. And it is one of the most mature, representations of grief,
Yep.
I've ever seen in a video game.
Yeah, that's basically the key thing here. Like, this game is a very mature in the actual, like, definition of mature, and
Emotionally
not in the,
resonant.
like, the 90s edition of mature.
Oh God,
Yes, emotionally mature. Yes.
Yeah, we're running way long. But before even we rank it, I really want everybody just say what the those who Cass, just for reference, like I asked Cass to be a part of this one because I felt like somebody who wasn't super familiar with the game should have a voice, because that will help us, because we're all like fanatics, the rest of us.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess I have a question, if you don't mind my asking, is that why do you feel this game hasn't come here yet, or may never come here? Because
I think we just went over.
Like,
I want to say, is there any other
whole
reason
thing
beyond that?
So the whole thing with the Magypsies is one reason. There's a bunch of other, like, set pieces and other points of content and, commentary that would either necessitate being changed, which would kind of, ruin the whole thing, or are just things that are not going to fly on a Nintendo console in the West at all.
That said,
like, if I say Tane Tane Island, anyone who's played the game knows exactly what the hell I'm talking about.
It's like, that said, I feel like the game is kind of so far removed from its original time and place that when you play it now, like, no kid's going to play this game unless they're like either really weird or they've got a really weird mom or dad. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know whether that's it. I think it's just like, it's a lot of stuff to translate. The Famicom Earthbound was translated for release in North America, and they just didn't end up releasing it, which is why we finally got it. We got it on Virtual Console because it was already done. It was done. So this game was never done, and Nintendo will, over their dead body, pay for a fan translation and publish that. Never going to happen.
It's so interesting, this game being just peripherally around. It's like Fire Emblem for the longest time before the Game Boy Advance games started coming out, where it's a game that I hear whispers of, with it having so many iterations that we just never saw on this side of the pond for the longest time.
Right.
And then it coming out and being present. And I feel like there's a Smash Brothers effect, obviously, that sort of pushes forward and brings a larger awareness to the franchise.
Yeah,
having maps and characters.
Yeah. Smash 1 is the reason that I learned about Earthbound in the first place, and then Smash Brawl goes and, drops major spoilers for 1 and 3.
so it's interesting because, like, in this case, like, I if I were making like financial decisions for Nintendo of America, like what to localize, like what legacy properties, first of all, I would be very disappointed because I don't think I'd be able to do much because they don't do a lot of that. But if somebody asked me, like, okay, so you've got options here, like we've got some stuff that we haven't done yet, like Captain Rainbow, right? That's or Mother 3. I'd probably say Captain Rainbow because the Mother 3 translation, for the people who want it, it's out there. It's not hard to find, and it's done by not only competent translators, but people who are the biggest Earthbound fans you will ever find. And I don't know how it could be improved upon. This is maybe the best fan translation of any game ever. In English.
We may have actually gotten a Tales of Phantasia GBA version of this game, I realize. And that's horrifying.
I would also say, just real quick, that Captain Rainbow, there's a game that would really struggle to be brought over in this day and age and recontextualized for a North American audience, or outside of, or for any period, modern period at all.
Before Xerxes
released. So.
Has to say it. We should probably
okay, so I want to rank it really highly, not as highly as Earthbound. My favorite thing about it are the little details. One of those details is that when you get involved in, like, you rescue someone from a burning building and you're trying to get out of like a forest fire, but the game allows you to recharge your health by going into like hot springs, essentially, that are scattered throughout. And if you do that so once you get out of the burning building, you're all black, covered in soot, right? But if you and the person you're saving go into the hot springs and come out, then like the bottom half of you is clean, but then like the top half of your head is still covered in soot. That's a really minor detail they didn't have to do. Also, somebody climbs up walls with wall staples. Okay.
Duster's great.
Yeah, Duster's awesome.
Can we just put this right below Earthbound? Because I just don't think it's
that's not right. Like, it's not. I love it with all my heart and soul. It's not as good as Earthbound.
It's not.
I would put it at 18.
That would
I don't know if I'd let you put this above Melee. I wouldn't put anything above Melee.
Look. All right.
Measure this on a casual player. Try to put yourself into perspective of not someone who's super passionate about Earthbound and who has a lot of familiarity with the series. Someone who is coming into these games for the first time. Someone who maybe heard of Earthbound. What would they go for first? Earthbound SNES or Mother 3? What would their...
Earthbound would just be a better pick.
I would recommend playing them in order, personally, because
I would recommend playing them in order just so that you're able to more appreciate many of the things that come in later in the narrative. But
Earthbound really, really works in a bubble.
Yeah, if you're still here with us at like minute 59 or whatever we're at now, you're probably the kind of person who would be able to get through the first two Earthbounds without a problem. Even so, like, I think it's worth doing at least the SNES Earthbound first. I also think that although this game is like a much stronger story than any of the other games before it, it kind of suffers as a game in a sense because of that, because you do feel like you're kind of being railroaded through scenarios that you don't know. Like there's always like a dread. I remember from the first time I played it where it's like, am I ever going to see this character again? Like if I gain like 2 levels to beat this boss, like am I ever going to see this character again? You don't know. Like it's kind of not gamey enough in some
opposite
sense.
Of like what Word said. Like I don't know if I could ever replay this one.
There's some heavy stuff, and
it's really, really good. But boy, it's not great.
It's also very funny.
It is very.
This is very funny.
It manages to do kind of the Lisa thing of managing tonal whiplash very well.
It does. It's kind of, I think, the writer's gift. That it's very hard to duplicate, and it's amazing that the fan translation worked out as well as it did. They also created a guidebook in very much the vein of the original Earthbound Super Nintendo and Nintendo Power guidebook that was packaged with that game. They have that. You can buy it online. I suggest you do. It is excellent. And it is a very great and fun way to play through the game. But okay, so I would put it down around, I would put it
the only point below Earthbound that I will accept is immediately below Earthbound.
Okay, all right. So we're not going to get along on this one. I would say I'm looking at below Super Meat Boy, and here's why.
Man, what? Get out.
That would put it at number 69. It would be number 70. It would be right above Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Right below Super Meat Boy. And if that sounds crazy to you, given all the praise I've lavished on this game, just consider what most of the games above it are, which are either the best examples of their series and or genre, or completely unique things that had never really been done before in the same way. Super Meat Boy, for example, is basically like a taking of like the, I don't know what you call it, like the Masocore
or whatever.
Yeah, genre and making it mainstream and playable and fun. That's a huge deal. It's had a very big effect on indie game development and design since then. Above that, Garo Mark of the Wolves, probably the best SNK fighter, best Neo Geo fighter. You know what I mean? Like above that, Deus Ex.
So how many of these games had petitions of over 100,000 signers asking?
None of them, but none of them were withheld from us, as far as I know. Like I think like every single game above that was released all over the world.
After everything you said, this game still sounds niche in a way where there's people who are going to appreciate it for its structure and for its narrative, obviously. And so I understand where someone like Where the Wind is coming from, where it's something that's emotionally resonant to them, where they're going to have a stake in it. But in terms of just like pure accessibility, obviously you don't have the access to it. But even if you did, it still feels like mechanically not as fluent from what I hear. Obviously, me being the expert in Earthbound, as I said at the beginning, I can say definitively that it's not mechanically as fluent. But maybe the narrative is a bit stronger, or there's characters you can make more of a connection.
If we're going to talk about mechanics, then if we break it down, then Earthbound is just Dragon Quest with a modern coat of paint.
It's got the...
great. Is that better or worse than Earthbound SNES, though, in terms of this sheer accessibility and playability?
Yeah, well, it is. It is. Earthbound NES is way too, like...
Earthbound is also Dragon... Or Mother 1 is also Dragon Quest.
Yeah, it's
Mother 3 dares to be different.
Mother 3 is...
It also takes a lot of the concepts that were in the prior two games and streamlines them in
I don't know if I
form
say
that
it's that different,
without clunk.
though.
Okay, all right. Try it again. All right? Putting it above Deus Ex, which is insane, but I'll do it. below Faster Than Light, above Dungeon Master.
I feel like it's a fair bargain, because if I'm looking at those games, like the point you made about those games being, exemplary for their class, being market leaders in their genre or what have you. And it sounds like a game that isn't necessarily that. I mean, granted, again, people are going to get very subjective, personal things out of this game, and that counts for people. I mean, lists aren't objective. So this list, as scientific as it is, as, measured as it is...
Thank you for believing in that.
Yeah. I really appreciate you maintaining the artifice of this whole charade.
I feel like putting it directly below original Earthbound, it doesn't seem like it's a game that would mechanically rate at that level. And I feel like putting it maybe below some like these games like Deus Ex or, even Half-Life, which is a game that I'm not even personally a fan of, but I understand the importance of that and the fact that it moved things forward and that it set a standard.
Exactly.
Whereas this is a game that didn't set as much of a standard so much as it did iterate on a formula.
Clade, it sounds like you get the final word for once. So where would you I take it you put it lower than Word would, but probably higher than I would put it?
Well, above Dungeon Master, certainly. I love Dungeon Master, but...
Streets of Rage 2, Alien Soldier, Panzer Dragoon Saga, VVVVV. What do you think?
What about... I think I'd play this over Ultima 7, but not over VVVVV.
Okay.
I think that's maybe where I'm looking.
Okay, wait. Word. Given that is the highest thing that's not your choice, what do you think?
I don't know why anyone would want to play VVVVV more than once, first off.
Yeah. Double.
I really like VVV.
I do too. I have played it more than once.
You also like Thaco, so...
All right, no.
Hey,
look, if you were asking me,
let's
Drake
not
of
go there.
99 Dragons would be in your top 10, so it would...
I think that sounds like that's where it goes.
Yeah.
That sounds like the closest
That's high
thing to a
praise.
consensus.
Above Ultima 7?
That's huge. And right, by the way, like stuff above it is like Kicks, Strider, Half-Life.
Okay, let's put it this way. Above Ultima 7 from Mr. CRPG is some high praise.
It is. Okay, I think that's where it goes.
I think we just have to pull that trigger.
So, yeah, we got to do it. We're at an hour now.
Oh, good Lord.
We're done. Thanks, everybody, for hanging with us this long. It's definitely worth checking out. And remember, Mother 4 is your life. That's all for this episode. Special thanks goes out to our lovely co-hosts and compatriots, our booking agent Jeff Rude, our theme song MC Norm, check him out at Normally Retro on Twitter, and our technical assistant, video editor, and scriptwriter Ed Burns. You can support this podcast by making a small monthly donation at patreon.com/HG101. I know, I did. By subscribing to the HG101 YouTube channel, and by following at GC9X and at HG_101 on Twitter. You can also hang out with us at our Discord channel. It's at bit.ly/HG Discord. But most importantly, help us spread the love of games by getting on iTunes, subscribing to HG101, and giving us a 5-star review. Do it because you like us and you want us to succeed. Until next time, keep keeping it real.